actually the rising trend. So I'm going to share with you some ideas that I believe are kind of part and parcel of Entrepreneur Country, and hopefully they will resonate or you'll react to them. We'll have some question there. But I do believe that this shift that I'll be describing and some of the key pieces of it, that it's like any change throughout history. The people who get to the other side, who kind of go across and kind of get to the new reality, the new paradigm, if you will, those are the people who reap the benefits, the rewards. Those are the people who kind of win in the next phase. So what we've done with Entrepreneur Country is to create just a very big invitation. That's what I'm trying to do with my book. That's what I'm trying to do with the community, of saying that more people will benefit, society benefits, by more people understanding what drives the entrepreneur and how we are building an entrepreneur country. Now, if you've heard of Nesta's Vital 6%, has anybody heard of that? The innovations agency here in the UK has done some really good research that 6% of all fast-growing businesses create 54% of the new jobs. So we know that it's about fast-growing SMEs. That's where the growth is going to come, that we pull ourselves into the next wave. And it's again about that accountability and new business creation. So, 10 quick ideas with a sub-thought, and then hopefully some questions. Capital follows ideas. It's interesting working in the capital business because people get so hung up on capital and entrepreneurs get so obsessed with not having capital that they forget it's much worse if you don't have the right ideas and if you can't execute the ideas. I was lucky because when I was 25 years old, a friend of mine at the time in Paris said, because when you're 25 and you have no money, you do get very obsessed with, how am I going to get some money to get forward? And you focus on the money, but actually you need to focus on the ideas. Capital throughout history has always followed ideas. Whether it was Christopher Columbus and Queen Isabella putting him on a retainer. Why'd you put him on a retainer? Because he was the guy who knew how to get to the New World. Michelangelo knew how to paint the Sistine Chapel, therefore the Medici family wanted to put him on retainer. So what's interesting is that the capital industry, and part of the arrogance that I find in the financing of entrepreneurship and so forth frequently, is that the money thinks that they start the party, but they don't. It's the entrepreneurs that do, but they're too busy thinking that what they don't have and what they do have is the most important quantity, which is a vision of the future, an idea, and an ability to execute, or at least the good ones. So money to me is first of all, I start with the belief, I believe very profoundly in rational self-interest. I don't think that you can get anyone to do anything unless you make it, you convince them that it's in their interest to do it. So you want more women on boards, you want more SMEs backed by banks. The only thing that you can do is to get them to understand why it's in their interest, why the world works better that way, and to focus on making that clear. And so I think it's more of a communications challenge, because obviously I think it would be better if we had more women on boards and more SMEs backed by banks. But I think we're not winning those battles because we're not communicating. And people don't actually believe. There's obviously a huge amount of money in this country. Why doesn't the money go to back those SMEs? Because ultimately it doesn't believe that small becomes big, startups change the world, they become the FTSE 100 companies and so forth. If they did, the money would flow there. We wouldn't have a problem, right? So money just flows like a commodity where it gets the highest return. So capital follows ideas. Second point, entrepreneurs backing entrepreneurs. This is, of course, what the founding principle of Ariadne Capital. After I sold First Tuesday, I thought, okay, great entrepreneurs out there. Interesting that they're trying to avoid the venture capital community. Interesting that the people who have a lot, who've gone into the burning building and have built something, boy, they have a lot to share with other people who want to go into the burning building of building a company. So I found 58 friends, John being one of them, who became one of my founding investors and basically have helped me over the past 10 plus years now, to create this model of entrepreneurs backing entrepreneurs, creating hopefully a virtuous circle of people who have made it, who've learned, sending the lift down to the next generation. And that model of virtuous circle of entrepreneurs backing entrepreneurs, I think, will just continue to drive the financing of entrepreneurship. Point 3, belief is the new currency. As an American, I'm fascinated in this country that we denigrate belief so much. And if you ask the average British person who they think their national hero is, most people would say Winston Churchill, who believed against all odds that the UK would win the war. And if he hadn't believed that and hadn't communicated that belief, the United States would not have supported him in that struggle. And so it's interesting to me that the national hero is somebody who's known for his belief against all odds. And yet in so many respects, we kind of trash any kind of belief. And it's a country very focused on a rational, analytical approach, and I think we're more than that. But what's important about the technology or high growth industries is that before the early adopters of products and services, there are early believers. I mean, I'm an early believer in that you need somebody, and that's what angel investing is all about, is finding that man or that woman who says, I kind of see where you're going here, and I'm kind of willing to walk the walk to get you other people and to create the followers that are going to be needed. So early believers are just absolutely fundamental in the ecosystem, but I don't think that they're given enough credit for that act of belief. And so many things are driven by belief, and I think just in general it's not positive for us to denigrate belief because it's something we can't know. There are things that you know, but there are things that you believe, and they're equally important. Point number 4, David and Goliath must dance. It seemed when I came to the UK and at that time of the internet boom that every technology entrepreneur out there was kind of a technological revolutionary. He or she was like David with his slingshot, wanting to decapitate the establishment, and it was all going to be new, and everybody that was established was going to die. And of course that didn't happen. And I think looking back on it, it took me a long time to kind of put it in perspective, but it seems very similar in some respects to the period of the early 70s with the rise of the microprocessor and perhaps what it was like with the rise of the printing press. There are moments throughout history of disruptive technology, and that was then, but that's not what's happening now. What's happened since the dot-com bust is that society, social and economic institutions have grabbed hold of that technological innovation and embedded it in our lives, right? Even through the dot-com bust and the crash of 08, 09, mobile penetration, broadband penetration just kept on increasing, right? So we're living more of our lives online, and that just has continued regardless of what's been going on in the financial markets. So what we think is happening is that David and Goliath have to do a dance to become high-growth businesses, and of course I think that's what we're all here. We're all looking for high growth. Where are the high growth businesses? You've got businesses that are, call them established, call them Goliath. They have large distribution bases, from the Tesco's to the mobile carriers, to the retail banks, all of the big businesses. And what they offer is distribution, the ability to scale. What we do is we find the Davids who are now not trying to attack the establishment, but to leverage the establishment. So David needs to get on the back of Goliath and creating a high-growth business with the digital enablers that Davids are doing today, which are basically creating digital revenue streams on the revenue side, moving infrastructure to the cloud. All of this is done in a kind of ecosystem economics way. So David and Goliath have to work together. Do we see any evidence of this in the market? Well, actually, I can't see, to be honest, too many exceptions to it. We have things like British Gas investing in Meyer. Meyer is a remote home monitoring and management company. So if something was happening in your flat, you get an alert to your phone right now. But how are they going to find you? Well, British Gas invested in them, giving them access to 30 million customers, right? So that kind of deal, a Meyer is not going to be able to get secure venture capital money to attract 30 million customers. They got a deal from British Gas to do that. So those are the kinds of deals, or Yell, which acquired Trusted Places, little location review site, getting access then to all of the customers of Yell. So David and Goliath must dance.